right? So,
Yeah.
anyways, so you ready? I'm just gonna we'll get started. Okay.
Sure.
Cool.
Go.
All right, Nikki, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining Ask the Mortgage Guys, little series that we're putting together here for the real estate world. I have local experts like yourself, have you join a little Instagram live session with me to just kind of have some open dialogue about the market, get your take on some things, and get some commonly asked questions that you get, I'm sure, on a daily, intra-daily basis when it comes to the real estate market.
Yeah.
So, thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, so a couple questions that we kind of talked about before we kind of went live here. A couple questions that you get asked all the time. And first of all, tell me your experience with, because you get this question all the time about like renovation costs and things like that. What's your experience with that? And then we'll go into that next question.
Yeah, so I've been in the building industry, the home industry, so to speak, for over 25 years. I kind of capped counting at 25 years. It's probably been closer to 30, right? But then we just date ourselves, and it's not a good day. So, so for over 25 years, like it's kind of in the blood. I mean, it goes back. My grandfather was a contractor, right? So it just goes way, way, way back. And so I've just spent a lot of time in lumber yards and helping people with homes.
Nice.
And various roles in the industry. And so buyers, now have a little bit of time to kind of like, oh, well, let's really actually think about this house before we move forward.
Not like sight unseen,
right,
sight unseen, right. 42 offers.
Right, like walk through the door. Do you like it? Good. Let's throw money at it, right? Because that's what was happening. So they have some time to think and ponder and even compare properties, honestly, which we really just weren't necessarily in the game to do even 8 months ago. So so a lot of questions that I get because of that experience is, how much does stuff cost, right? So what happens is the buyer has this dream list of everything that they want, and we'll get 80, 85, maybe even 90% there. But even if you build your new home, right? I use my mother as an example. I've been a part of her building 2 homes. Hardest customer ever, right? But even when she's done, right? Like she did the whole thing, like she picked it all. She picked it.
Wow.
She still would go back and change.
That's a daunting undertaking.
Right?
Wow.
But she's still, like, even yesterday morning, I still wish my cabinets went to the ceiling. Right. So even when you build it, you're still going to think back and go, I wish I did this, or I would have done that, or whatever, right?
Right.
So resale is no different, where you're going to get 80, 90, 95% there. No matter what house you walk into, it's not yours. It's somebody else's. And so it doesn't have your feel, your jam, your loves. And so just a lot of questions about, okay, if I want to replace all this flooring because it's carpet and I have dogs, or I want to paint, or it's older, right? So in some instances, we have older homes where we don't have comfort height toilets. Like sometimes it's as simple as that. Like, how do I just like swap this short toilet out and put in, right, a comfort height toilet? So I get a lot of questions about those costs. My recommendation for other realtors out there is study. Just go study, like hang out.
Okay.
Just go hang out at the Home Depot. And how much does it cost to put new carpet in, or put new vinyl in, or put hardwood in, right? And so just so you can have some ranges for your clients when they say, oh my God, this flooring is awful and I need to replace it all. I'd love it. It'd be beautiful if it were X hardwood, or
I mean, that's like some killer advice. I never really thought about just going to Home Depot and Home Depot rocks in and of itself, right? So why not just go to Home Depot and just peruse, get some pictures of. Yeah. That is fantastic advice. Nick, I never thought about
and all their prices are out there. like they're going to tell you how much it is installed and not by the square foot. So you can start to give your clients some ranges on what those things cost. Meet a kitchen designer, meet a cabinet designer, like find out if somebody's going to remodel a kitchen, what's that look like?
Right.
What's that cost? So for me, I just know.
Right.
I've just been doing it a long time. But
for
those who don't, sometimes a lot of new agents go, I haven't done this for 25 years. Well, just go shopping. Be a customer.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Change out a room in your house and put new carpet down or new something, right?
Right. It's kind of so simple, you don't even think about it.
You don't. You don't.
know?
But you want the client to continue to be able to see themselves in that space, even though it's only 80% there.
Right.
So what do we have to do to get it 90 or 95 or as close to 100 as possible? And sometimes it's those simple investments, right? Because all of those things are investments into their property.
Yeah.
But what's that investment gonna look like over and above whatever our purchase price is?
So when people do, let's say they do a remodel cabinets, and of course, you know, it's just kind of a loaded question, but is it dollar for dollar, or you're getting
ranges, you know, just ranges, similar to what we do when one of my sellers says, how much can I sell my house for? Well, it depends. The same rules apply, just in reverse. Well, did you put new carpet down? How old's the roof? How old's the HVAC? Like, all of those are worth value to the buyer. And so we still do ranges with sellers too. You could sell it for 300 to 350, 350 to 4 to 450, just depending on what you have done, what investments you have made in comparison to the property down the street that sold.
Right. Question. Would you, if somebody came to you and said, I want to sell my house, but I know it needs updates, I'm going to do those updates first before I sell it. What's your recommendation on them doing the renovations prior to putting it on the market?
Right. So we do a walkthrough. So we do a quick walkthrough for two things. One, I can pick out things, at least at a very generic level, that an inspector is going to find, because they show up on all my inspection reports, right? So we need to hit those things first, and then the things that are most valuable to the buyer, right? So the most reasonably priced improvement you can do is paint. Just do fresh paint, right? And then maybe some bigger ticket items. So I have a new listing that just went live today, actually, and he was about 4 weeks getting ready before we came onto the market. So my handyman was in there fixing all the inspection items. My stager and interior designer, I offer my clients a free consultation with her. And so she comes in and does paint colors, lighting, furniture placement, what to take out, what not to take out, right? So she helps kind of reinforce my initial walkthrough with her design expertise. And then the rest of my guys come in. So who needs paint, toilets need to be fixed, like whatever power, we got to power wash everything, we got to repair the fence, we got the landscaper needs to come out, right? So then just all my guys go to work depending on what that list looks like, of what needs to be done. And the seller sometimes decides there's a threshold of investment they're going to make, and so as long as we understand that whatever that threshold is has a direct impact on what we're going to list it up for, right? So, you know, in this example, he didn't necessarily want to redo all the floors. They could be redone, right? But that was where he was stopping. He was going to do everything else. And we already had a roof that's less than 5 years old, an HVAC that's less than 5 years old, right? Those are all big ticket items for a buyer that they're already paying X, right? Yeah. They don't want to have to pay, you know, $6 a square foot to have a new roof put on. So, right. So, so we just go through the laundry list of stuff. I start with the inspection items, and then my team comes in with the others.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to, let's say they had like an older home that was dated, would you, of course it's case by case, right? Just generically, would you recommend that they don't do it? Because maybe somebody that wants to buy that property has a different idea of what they want to do to that space, or would you recommend that they do it?
No, then we price it accordingly. So I had another one built in 1949. Its location was the premier selling point. So it was primo property in walkable distance to downtown Davidson, but he hadn't done anything to it in 20 years, right? So that's a price to sell as is, but priced in this case, it could be, I love an old home. Like, I love the character of the old, like some stuff we just don't do that way anymore, right? We don't do really cool millwork in a butler's pantry. Nope, it's white shaker cabinets with liquor on the countertop, right? Like, we just don't do cool rounded, right, pantries anymore. We just don't do that stuff. So I love an old house. That particular one had two options. You could strip it to the studs and remodel the whole thing, take walls out, add walls in, or you could level it. and just take the half acre for what it was and build something new. So we just priced it accordingly.
Gotcha.
There was no way. It would have been cost prohibitive for him to do the updates and then think he's going to get, right? He needed to sell. So, you know, if you're doing those updates over the years, right, then you get your return, because you're never going to get dollar for dollar back in the price because you updated the kitchen. Now, 5 years from now, you might get 50% of it back because you have an updated kitchen, but you won't get dollar for dollar. And in his case, he had to sell. No matter what we did to that house, somebody else would want something different, right? Want it laid out different, right?
For sure.
And so we sold it. We sold it as is for the top dollar we could in that condition.
Gotcha. Okay. No, that's great. That's great info. Because, you know, I've heard different stories, and that would probably be my personal take too, is why spend all this money on trying to get something when, you know, somebody might do something different with it.
It depends on the condition. Like some things are doable, and the right now, because anybody who's been in their home for 10, 15 and more years, like their return right now is huge.
Right.
They're
for sure.
They're sitting on a ton of equity. So they can put some of those dollars to it, to either, if their goal is to speed up the sale, sell it quicker, sell it for more, whatever the case may be. The goal is you want to attract as many buyers as you can, and you got to do that with a combination of elements, price point being one, updates being another,
right.
And then see how it goes
Gotcha.
out there. But, you know, and the bottom line, we've said it for decades: kitchens and bathrooms sell houses. Period. If your kitchen's updated and your bathrooms are updated, she'll go quickly. But you can't necessarily do that when you want to put it on the market tomorrow.
Right.
You have to have done that, right?
Correct.
Over.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm doing a bunch of stuff in my house right now, like just cleaning out the kids' bedrooms, fresh paint, new flooring, right? Next will be countertops and backsplash, right? So you just do that. And I don't know about you, but I want to enjoy it before I give it to somebody else.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just did, I just renovated one of my investor properties, and man, oh man, what a difference just a fresh coat of paint
it's
on that thing did. You know,
and it's not that
fixing the walls and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that. I mean, I had 3 rooms painted yesterday. Love my painter, great guy, takes great care of my clients. 8 hours, done, knocked out 3 rooms.
Nice.
You know, so it's easy, for lack of a better word,
right,
to do just paint.
To do just paint.
And have it, and lighting that's easy. Just update your fixtures.
Gotcha. So how is the current market right now?
Unpredictable. my favorite word right now. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's slowing. No, it's not. I think that, and this has been true here in just greater Charlotte, we are a little bit unique to other parts of the country. So sound bites in the national news don't always apply to greater Charlotte, your town, your neighborhood, right? And so I would say I'm unpredictable. So my advice to buyers right now is, if you find a house that you like, if we see a house that we like, we act like it's a crazy market. Because I've had 2 that went into multiple offer in this market. Interest rates were higher than they are today, I think, that were in multiple offer sight unseen. So it depends, like that neighborhood, it was updated to a place where it was drawing buyers, and we were in a multiple offer. It was crazy.
Right.
So you hear all these sounds.
Put them up.
So now every time one comes on that I know fits my buyer's needs, one came on yesterday. We went out yesterday. Like you don't think that you have time because the market has slowed in your mind, because it's completely unpredictable. It depends on the neighborhood. It depends on the location. It depends on the condition. It depends on the price point. It depends, just this laundry list of stuff.
Right.
And for me, it's not slow. It's normal. We're really coming into this place where it's normalizing. I've been in this industry a long time, and connecting people to home is my passion. It's what I do. I think that what we do is second to healthcare. It really is.
Right.
Save them, but I can change their lives every day with the house that we're able to put them in that they love and they feel
awesome.
super connected to, right? So now they can, we said this earlier, like, oh, well, in some cases you could actually sleep on it and we can make an offer tomorrow.
Right.
like, oh my God, this is a huge, for many, many people, this is the biggest purchase they'll ever make in their lives. Ever. Right. And we were in a place where we expected them to make the biggest decision of their lives in 30 seconds. So the feeling of normalization and the feeling of being able to really connect people to home and know that there's not buyer's remorse, because we have a lot of that right now from folks who purchased in the craze. So I say normalizing. I use Kenny, my husband and I, as an example. When we purchased our first home, the interest rate was 11%. I refinanced it 3 times.
Wow.
I know, right? Did significant improvements and additions to it, and sold it almost 10 years later and made money, right? So it's normalizing. We're getting back to that place.
Back to some normalcy.
Yeah. And so for buyers, it's, you get to sleep on it. In most cases, there are instances where it's unpredictable. So you really need to leverage your expert, your realtor, to help guide through that.
For sure.
When you need to act quick. And then for sellers, here's the thing. What your neighbor got is not what you're getting.
What? No.
I know.
No.
I know. But everybody, like everybody has shifted a bucket. So if you were looking at something for $700,000, now you're looking at something for $6 million. If you were looking for $6 million, now you're looking at $5 million, right? It's because of the normalization of the market. So, and you're not going to sell it in a weekend. Right? You're going to,
for the most part.
For the most part, you're not, because the buyers know and feel they have more time. So even if they see it today, we may not get an offer until next week, right? Because they know they have time now. We are doing more negotiating, which is great for both sides, honestly. Have that opportunity to have conversations about what's best for both sides of the transaction, which is great. That one we talked about that was in complete disrepair, you could take to the studs. It was on the market for 22 days, and then we went into multiple offer. So that's what I mean by unpredictable, right? So everybody's doing research, thinking about it was a big investment and a big time investment, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of work needed to be done. And then, I had multiple offers after 22 days. So that's the unpredictability of the market right now. It's healthy. It's just healthy. It's the place where we were wasn't sustainable. I mean, it just wasn't sustainable over time. So
no, for sure.
And I do feel like I'm a big believer that you marry the house, date the rate, and so they change, rates change, and for buyers who are ready and the stars align. Like I'm not in the business to force anybody to buy or sell today, right? Everything has to line up. Whatever the motivation is for you, it's got to be aligned. But when it is, even in this market, pretend like 7 more people want that same house, right? Like that's right. That's kind of the way we need to behave, even though in some instances that's not necessarily the case. So
gotcha. Okay.
That's what I think.
Good stuff.
So, Angelo, what is the interest rate? How many times do you get asked that?
That's a kind of a good segue from your neighbor, right? Well, my neighbor 6 months ago got a 5.5 rate.
2.5%. How come you do that?
That's probably one of the biggest questions I do get asked on a daily. We get asked, what is your interest rate? I'm not even sure how to answer that, to be honest with you. There's so many, of course, 30-year fixed conventional is what you think of, right? But what is your interest rate is a very broad question because, well, what's your qualification? I mean, are you got a 600 credit score, or you got a 780 credit score? Are you looking for a non-QM loan? Are you looking for an FHA loan? Are you looking for a VA loan? Are you a conventional loan? You're looking for a construction loan? Let's go ahead and like filter this down to what you actually need here, not like what's your rate. Let's kind of figure out what's the best product for you, right? FHA may be different than conventional with your particular scenario. You know, lower credit score is going to be for FHA. So there's so many variables. Property type, occupancy type. You know, is it a condo? Is it you know, a townhouse? Is it you know, is it rural? Is it USD? You know, there's so many different variables that can come into play. But when the call comes in, it says, "What's your rate?" You know, I'm assuming that they're like, "What's your 30-year mortgage rate?" Right. So it's like, all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Let's figure out exactly what you qualify for. Right. We can give you a hypothetical on what that is based on some information that we dig out of you. You know, and then we'll kind of gear around that. But there's first-time homebuyer programs. There's a Freddie Mac. It's got the down payment assistance program with a certain income level. So there's if you call somebody and you ask them what's my rate and they just tell you a 5.5, you better just run, because they didn't ask any other questions about your scenario to help filter down what you could qualify for. So I don't just quote rates over the phone. I mean, if they have those details and if they have been shopping and if they talk to a bunch of different lenders and they know, yes, I want a conventional loan, I want 20-year fixed, my credit score is a 780 score, it's a condominium in Uptown Charlotte, 5 stories, you know, I'm self-employed, you know, if there's a lot of, if they know all those, okay, I have a bunch of different lenders and the range is, you know, 6.2 to 7.2, whatever the rates are, right? So, so then if they want to like proceed, I'm like, all right, for me to really give you hardcore number, let's go ahead and get an application, you know, and we'll review the whole thing. We'll take a look at it. We'll call you to discuss some options. You know, is this going to be a long-term play for you? Is this going to be your forever home? Is this just a stepping stone to something next? You know, if you want a 15-year, you know, are you downsizing? You know, so it's not just, you know, what's your rate. If you want the cheapest payment, you know, it's going to be the 30-year mortgage, right? Because it's the longest, you know, mortgage conventionally. You know, we do have some 40-year interest onlys on the non-QM, specifically for certain like investors and stuff. But yeah, what's your rate is such a loaded question, and we get it. I mean, at least half a dozen times a day. Yeah. So, but yeah, but that's definitely a good convo today. Yeah. Learned a lot. Yeah. Learned a lot. Yeah, we've been probably talking around about 18 minutes or so. Yeah. And got some good info. But I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for hopping on here and giving me your expertise on the renovation, kind of what to do, what to look for, and your experience too. You know, you have a lot of experience where, you know, some that are in the business do not. But I think my biggest takeaway from this, because I knew your experience level, but my biggest takeaway is going to Home Depot. Like, legit, just going to Home Depot. That's as simple as that. The next time you have to go to Home Depot for something, allocate another, you know, additional 30, 45 minutes and just walk around the store, take some pictures, stop prices up shit. I just never even thought about that. So, you know, I did it for my investment property, right? When I had to go fix stuff. But other than that, other than the stuff that I had to do, I don't know, you know, what it is. So great stuff. Good. Appreciate you. And then we'll go ahead and get this ripped down. Yeah. And we'll get it on our social media channels in the next week or so. But thank you so much for joining. All right. Always a pleasure. And we will talk soon. All right. Have a good one. All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.